All right, welcome back. It's a year into Russia's war in Ukraine, and still it's being bombarded by missile strikes and aerial assaults. South Africa came under fire in April of last year when it chose to abstain from a vote on whether to kick Russia out of the UN Human Rights Council. Now, the conflict has sparked a chain of reaction that's disrupted supply chains across the world. But to discuss this even further, I'm now joined in studio by Ukrainian Ambassador to South Africa, Ambassador Liubov Abravitova, joining us, of course, this afternoon. Thank you so much, Ambassador. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good to have you with us. I mean, we've been talking to some, I suppose, Ukrainian even in the country. There are three words that they often use when they describe the war in Ukraine. The first being fear, love, and hope. And I wanted to get your sense. How would you describe the war right now, a year into it, even though the President Zelensky has promised citizens that by the end of at least the next 12 months, there will be victory?
I would describe this year a year of strength and resistance, of hope and belief in ourselves, year of consolidation and unity of Ukrainians, but also of all the democratic world. The year when Ukrainians were able to prove that Russian army is not that strong as the world seen it, that Russian empire is not strong and actually is weak, and that the victory anyway will be on the side of good, not of evil.
When President Volodymyr Zelensky said there will be victory, it is certain, in the next year to come, what does that victory mean? What does it look like? At what cost is the president striving for that victory?
Don't get me wrong, but we are not talking anymore about the price through which we are getting into our victory. And victory for us, it's our right, our natural right to be on our sovereign and independent land, and to restore our territorial integrity, and of course for the future to have our right to make our choice independently.
Yeah.
So that's what you call independence.
Yeah.
This is the war for independence, but also the war for the existence of Ukrainian nation.
And is that the only condition, Ambassador, that you're willing to have a settlement on, to settle the war once and for all? Is that the condition?
Well, we already looked at different dimensions of this war, and each of them needs a solution. But the first step to be done in order to start looking for the solutions and start talking and start negotiating must be the restoration of territorial integrity of Ukraine and withdrawal of Russian troops from our independent territory. Don't forget that while we are sitting and talking, the missiles are falling down from the sky in Ukraine. Just 2 minutes ago, when I was coming into the studio, the missile alarm went on in Kiev. That means that missiles are in the air. So tell me, please, how we can sit at the table of negotiations if we are under fire?
Yeah. I understand, and please correct me if maybe my numbers may be incorrect, Ambassador. I understand that Russia has occupied nearly a fifth of Ukraine. What certainty and confidence do you have that you'll reclaim back those territories back?
First of all, we showed to our people and to the world that since September last year, we were able to regain half of the territories that were occupied by Russians. That means that the counteroffensive was successful and that we did progress. The only thing that stops us today is the lack of that military and technical support that is crucially needed now. And that is why all the efforts of the government and of Ukrainian diplomacy is directed now to get this ammunition as soon as possible, because when we are losing time, when we are waiting 1 week after another, our people are dying. So more we are waiting, more people will be dying.
How has conversations been like with the international and the global community around appealing for more voices to be added on to condemn the war in Ukraine?
We just recently seen the vote in the General Assembly, which showed and proved again that world stays united for the values of United Nations Charter. The resolution that was adopted by 141 votes basically is a reflection of the United Nations Charter. And we were glad that world is not tired of Russia's brutal war, of their invasion. The world stands for the values to which we are binding.
Yeah. And I mean, you're also deployed to a country that many have criticized for what I would quote as, most critics saying, choosing to sit on the fence and not condemning. South Africa has came out saying they believe a dialogue between Ukraine and Russia would be a way to end what they term a conflict between the two countries. What's your stance on that? What do you have to say still about South Africa's positioning?
We also do believe in dialogue and into multilateralism. It goes without saying. And we know that every war will be finished with diplomatic engagements and negotiations. But there must be certain conditions for that. We also do respect the right of every country to choose their friends, their partners, their alliances. By the way, this is something that Ukraine also is fighting for today. That's why it would be very unfair if I would be criticizing any country on taking that or another position. What we have a right as an independent country is to express our concerns when we see that certain actions of certain countries are stimulating or encouraging Russia to continue its offensive and to continue their violations of, again, let me repeat it, of all the values that all of us are sharing. That is why I really hope, and I see that a lot of countries, particularly in Africa, are starting to understand and starting to take responsibility for their decision, because everyone understands that now every vote, every voice, let me say this, can really stop killings of Ukrainian innocent population, innocent people.
Yeah. And can you share some of those countries that are of concern to you, that you may think or feel do encourage Russia's actions?
I guess that, first of all, let me speak about the countries that changed their minds and that vote in favor of resolution and about lasting peace, such as Madagascar or such as Lesotho. I'm speaking about these particular countries because they are the countries of responsibility of the embassy of Ukraine in South Africa. We're glad to see Zambia and Botswana to support us unconditionally. And meantime, we're sitting now in this studio when the active phase of joint drills of South Africa with Russian Federation and with China are happening, when the vessel with letters V and Z, those letters that they are using on their ammunition, military techniques in Ukraine while killing our civilians, is now in your peaceful waters. I think this is not but can encourage Russia to continue. I'm answering your question.
With that being said, what about the criticism, Ambassador, against your country, Ukraine, for receiving weapons and funds from the West. What would your position and response be to that criticism?
If you allow me, I would correct you, because it's not only from the West. Because 141 countries that are voted and supported a resolution, they are representing all the globe. We are receiving military and economic assistance from Asian countries, from Australia, from some Latin American countries. So I really don't feel like we have to call it European assistance. And secondly, why we are receiving this assistance? Because we were invaded. We were not coming with war. We were not threatening. We didn't provoke. Whatever reasons Russia is trying to put in order to justify their actions, today it's absolutely obviously that the main reason was the total control over Ukraine, over our resources, and not to allow Ukrainian nation to exist, because basically existence of Ukrainians is challenging issue for existence of Russians themselves.
Right.
So I want to tell that if we would not demand, we are not asking, we are demanding this support, we already would not exist. And why we are demanding? But because we are protecting today every country in the world, every democracy. We're protecting our values. And if we fail, the world will never be the same. It already will not be the same, because we will need to look at the architecture of our security system. Those guarantees that existed for Ukraine, they suddenly were not working, and they are not working. So we have to set up the new arrangement that none of the countries in the world can repeat the scenario that Russia is doing. And by the way, this is not the first time when Russia is doing this.
Before I let you go, Ambassador, you mentioned earlier on in our conversation that as we speak right now, rather on your way to our studio, a missile was already detected. What's your message to Russia, and what's your message rather to Ukraine?
Message to Russia that we're strong, we're united, we will not give up, and we will take what belongs to us legally and historically. And message to Ukrainians, I pray for them. I pray for our defenders, and I'm very proud of my country today more than ever.
Ambassador, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
time. Appreciate you making your way to our eNCA studios. That's, of course, Ukrainian Ambassador to South Africa joining us, Liubov Abravitova joining us right here on eNCA. All right, more to come, including this, 30 days in 30 minutes. Stay tuned. This is eNCA.